Hello and welcome to the session. We're looking right now at one of our new services for cloud hosting higher education data. So this project started out mainly due to demands by users of the Autoscholar. So they wanted to try out smaller data sets without having to write a whole API to try it out and to get a whole Autoscholar implementation working. So it started out just as a way to ease into the Autoscholar, but it's evolved into something quite useful in its own right. And it's now a full institutional database management service. So one advantage is that the Autoscholar works out of the box from this baseline, and so there's no need to write an API for yourself. Although there is a powerful one that's made available to you. So when working with the system, you do have an API available. This is not to say that this is intended to replace your existing API connection. So if you have invested the time and effort into creating an API that works with the Autoscholar, that will still work. This is just an alternative if you want to host your data. So the service is also based on our experiences with multiple institutions in South Africa and with one in the US. And so it borrows from the best practices observed in these different places. So let's have a look. So in this first tab under structures, we can manage and edit all the substructures of our institution. So you can see, of course, we can enter the institution name and provide an institution code and so on. And then within an institution, we can specify the campuses of that institution as well. So that's a full editor. You can edit your campuses here. And then your colleges in your institution can also be edited. And then let's select something with some data in it. So here we've selected this college, which has these faculties. And so if we choose engineering here, for instance, then under engineering, we've got the disciplines. So that's the hierarchy. You've got the institution. You've got campuses. Well, that's sort of a side branch on the hierarchy. Then more centrally, you've got within an institution, you've got colleges. And then within colleges, you have faculties. And within faculties, you have disciplines or departments. So sometimes you'll see the term school instead of faculty or department instead of discipline. And you can definitely apply aliases to the system so that it appears in the nomenclature that you are familiar with. Then, of course, you've got degrees or academic programs. So again, within your discipline, you'll have a particular set of academic programs available. And then there will be particular courses associated with that degree. So you'll have your core courses, and then you may have core electives, and you'll also have free electives. Well, those feed from the pool of all the available courses at the institution. So under structures, it goes all the way from the institution through your colleges and schools and departments and academic programs down to the courses. And it's set up to be, well, with the intention to be flexible enough that whether you are a daycare center or a high school or a university, you can model your system and you'll have enough flexibility to do that here. Of course, if it's a simpler structure, then your institution will be your college name, will be your faculty name, and so on, until you get to the level of flexibility that you need. There are also some alternatives. So sometimes institutions become grouped together, or sometimes they're splitting across campuses and so on. So there are additional fields that I won't talk about here, but there are ways to model the more complex structures where there are subgroupings and associations and splitting and twinning and all those good things. So in terms of the meta structures of the institution, you can edit that there. Then you can also add and edit your staff and students. So under your staff editor, you can add in your staff and specify things like the staff number, and you can associate staff with particular disciplines and so on. And this may change with time, and there are multiple possible records behind that. So your staff editor there, and then These parts aren't accessible yet, but we maintain the record of research and the teaching load, and then administrative roles and so on undertaken by the staff. So this area will evolve over time to include more specs about the staff. And then under students, of course, we've got our students. Let's just the same type of thing here for the student editor. So you can add a student to an institution. You can associate them with particular degrees and so on. So you can, if you select a student here, then you can register a student for a particular program, and of course you have to do that in a particular year and particular semester, and there are various fields associated with the registration for a student. So of course all this is not intended to be for the front end. So the front end for an administrator would be a little friendlier than this. This is intended to be a look almost directly at the database. However, it is usable. You can use this interface to edit your data. So anyway, you can register students for programs in this interface, and then you can register students also for classes. So I forgot to mention that a course is, so we mentioned the course under structures, but a course is, of course, in a way, an abstract container, and an instance of a course is a class. So we have a class that exists in a particular year and a particular semester. So a class is a particular instance of a course. Those of you from an object-oriented background might chuckle at the idea that a class is an instance. But anyway, a class is an instance of a course, and so you can see if we choose a class here, we are selecting a particular year and a particular semester and so on. So you've got all the registrations by students in the different classes that they've undertaken over the years. And we've also got then academic records for each of those as well. So you've got the final course result, of course. So here's a class that the student undertook, and then the result is shown here. And then also all the assessments undertaken by that student. So for instance, test 1 in this particular class, and assignment 1 and the practicals, and so all the academic records, assessments and tests and so on are listed here. And then you can also see that in a different view here. So under academic records, so this is not sorted student-wise. In this case, we select a student and then it loads up the records for that student. But under academic records, it's kind of a raw look at all the records, and you can search for particular things here. So you can filter for a course and perhaps a year, and so you can more easily search through all the course records here. You can page around as much as you want, and you can filter. So for instance, if you're interested in the top marks in a particular course, then you can easily use this table to pick that up. So that's for course records, and you can do the exact same thing for assessment records. You can see the assessment code is a new field here, so it's a higher resolution look at all the records available. So that's currently what's in the system. At the moment, we are integrating the schedules, that is our attendance manager, into the schedules part. So that's where we have full timetable management, and where you can monitor the attendance by students at the class events. And of course, all of this integrates, as we said, with the AutoScholar. So all the assessment becomes available, all the analysis that tells us about the performance of the institution and the performance over the degrees and the time to grad and all those usual things. Those are all available once we have this connection to our data. Okay, so that's it for now. There will be several updates to this, and in a way, this is a never-ending task because of the complexity of higher ed and the amount of different types of data that we have to keep integrating. But this gives you a rough look at what the new service is going to be like, and it's due for release in March of 2021.